The gentleman from Kansas, Mr. Estes, is recognized to speak on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, we've talked a lot about what's the right policy and what do we want to do here, and the differences between Democrats and Republicans. One of the things we need to highlight and make sure it gets said is that Republicans are looking out for the American workers. You know, before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, there were companies that were going through the inversion process, taking American jobs and moving them overseas. Even President Obama recognized that and was trying to stop that effort, but doing it in a backhanded way. And we wanted to make sure that we codified that and that we focused on good trade policies. That's the goal of the Republicans. When we did the Republican tax reform, it created the first of its kind global minimum tax, which prevents some of the abusive tax policies that happen and actually make sure that multinational companies pay taxes and continue to support jobs for American workers in America. Earlier this year, the Biden administration started the process of doing this global minimum tax and started this race to the bottom of what can be the taxes that every country and companies in every country have to pay. Really what that is an economic surrender, particularly if we head down the route that we're headed now in terms of forcing American companies to pay taxes, and companies based in other countries don't require that. You know, Communist China has been part of that negotiations that President Biden had on this global minimum tax. But does anybody really believe that China would do anything to slow down their industrial policy? I mean, they certainly haven't worried about trade obligations, certainly haven't worried about human rights for the Uyghurs or for Hong Kong, as long as it doesn't stand in the way of their strategic planning. But under the Democrats' plan, we would unilaterally disarm, making Americans completely uncompetitive in the global marketplace. And this ultimately will mean fewer jobs in the United States and more jobs and more growth in China. The National Association of Manufacturers had estimated that President Biden's global minimum tax will kill 500,000 to 1 million American jobs. These are jobs that we can't afford as we're trying to get out of the coronavirus shutdowns and get our economy going again, as good as it was back in January and February of 2020. In no case should we allow our global minimum tax rate, already around 15% for most American companies, to be higher than the rate in Japan or higher than the rate in China. We want to make sure that this amendment gets implemented so that we don't have a race to the bottom and that we maintain good American jobs in America. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.